The judgment has been rendered. Let the flames purify your souls.
The Middle Ages began in shadow. When Rome fell in the 5th century, its collapse was not a single dramatic event, but a slow unraveling. Roads that once carried legions and merchants fell silent, overgrown with weeds. Aqueducts cracked, cities shrank, and the infrastructure of empire crumbled. To many, it felt as though the light of civilization had been extinguished. Imagine living in a world where the systems you relied on, trade, law, protection, simply vanished. It would be like waking up tomorrow to find the internet gone, banks collapsed, and governments dissolved. That was Europe after Rome. In this vacuum, new powers rose. Local warlords carved out territories, demanding loyalty in exchange for protection. The church stepped into the void, offering spiritual certainty in an uncertain world. Monasteries became islands of knowledge where monks copied ancient texts by candlelight. Yet even here, secrecy reigned. Books were chained to desks, guarded as treasures. Knowledge was no longer shared freely, it was hoarded. For ordinary people, life shrank to the village. Most never traveled more than a few miles from home. Fear of the unknown, of raiders, of famine, of demons lurking in the woods shaped daily existence. Superstition replaced science. A bad harvest was blamed on sin, a storm on witchcraft. The darkest secret of this new age was not just the loss of Rome, but the birth of a society built on fear. Fear of outsiders, fear of the church, fear of the night. And in that fear, power found fertile ground.
The church was the most powerful institution in medieval Europe. It crowned kings, collected tithes, and dictated morality. To the faithful, it was the path to salvation. To rulers, it was both ally and rival. But with power came corruption. Popes commanded armies, bishops lived like princes, and monasteries amassed vast wealth. The church preached humility, yet its leaders dined on silver plates while peasants starved. Behind closed doors, councils silenced dissent. Thinkers who questioned doctrine were branded heretics, their works burned, their names erased. The church's greatest secret was not its faith, but its control. It controlled knowledge, locking away books in Latin that few could read. It controlled truth, deciding which ideas were holy and which were dangerous. It controlled fear, teaching that salvation could be bought through indulgences and that questioning authority risked eternal damnation. Imagine if one company today controlled all media, all schools, and all courts of law. That was the church in the Middle Ages. Its reach extended into every home, every heart, every mind. Yet even within the church, whispers of doubt grew. Reformers called for change, but most were silenced. The Inquisition would later become the iron fist of this control, but even in these early centuries, the seeds of fear were planted. The church's hidden hand shaped Europe, not only through faith, but through secrecy, manipulation, and power.
In the mid-14th century, death came on the wind. The Black Death swept across Europe with terrifying speed. It began in the East, carried by fleas on rats, and within a few years, it had killed nearly half of Europe's population. The symptoms were horrifying. Buboes, swollen, blackened lumps, appeared in the armpits and groin. Fever raged, skin darkened, and within days, death followed. Entire families vanished in a week. Villages were left empty, fields untended, churches silent. Fear spread faster than the plague itself. People searched for scapegoats. Jews were accused of poisoning wells.
Foreigners were hunted, and even cats and dogs were slaughtered as supposed agents of the devil. Communities turned on themselves, desperate for someone to blame. The church, powerless to stop the plague, offered prayers and processions. But when priests died as quickly as peasants, faith faltered. If God was merciful, why did he allow such suffering? Some turned to flagellation, whipping themselves in public to atone for humanity's sins. Others abandoned religion altogether, convinced the end of the world had come. The darkest secret of the Black Death was not only its devastation, but how it revealed the fragility of medieval society. Trust crumbled, families abandoned the sick, parents left children, children left parents. The bonds that held communities together dissolved under the weight of fear. And yet, in the ashes, change began. Labor shortages gave peasants new bargaining power. Old systems cracked. The plague was both a tragedy and a turning point. But in its darkest days, it was terror incarnate.
When we picture the Middle Ages, we often imagine noble knights in shining armor, galloping across green fields to rescue maidens and defend the weak. But the reality was far darker. Knights were not superheroes of justice, they were instruments of war, bound by loyalty to their lords rather than to any universal code of honor. The concept of chivalry is often romanticized, but in practice it was more like a mafia code. Knights swore allegiance to their liege lord, promising to fight his battles, protect his lands, and enforce his will. That might mean defending a village, but it could just as easily mean burning one to the ground if it belonged to a rival. Castles, too, were not fairy tale palaces. They were fortresses of oppression, built to dominate the landscape and remind peasants of their subjugation. From their high towers, lords and knights could survey the land they controlled, while those who toiled below lived in poverty. The grandeur of stone walls and banners concealed the suffering of those who paid for them with endless labor and crushing taxes. On the battlefield, knights were brutal. Their armor made them nearly invincible against poorly armed peasants or levies. They charged into lines of infantry, cutting down men who had little more than pitchforks or wooden shields. The myth of gallant duels between equals was rare. More often, knights slaughtered the defenseless. Tournaments, often portrayed as festive displays of skill, were also violent affairs. Jousts could end in death, melees in broken bones and crushed skulls. These events were less about honor and more about proving dominance, intimidating rivals, and entertaining nobles. The darkest secret of knighthood was that the code of chivalry was selective. Knights were expected to show mercy to fellow nobles, but peasants and commoners were fair game. A knight might spare a captured lord for ransom, but a farmer defending his home could be cut down without hesitation. Behind the shining armor and romantic tales lay a world of blood and iron, where power was enforced at the tip of a sword. If knights enforced power on the battlefield, the Inquisition enforced it in the mind. Established by the Church, the Inquisition was designed to root out heresy, but in practice, it became a weapon of fear. Accusations could come from anywhere: a neighbor's grudge, a whispered rumor, a slip of the tongue. Once accused, innocence was nearly impossible to prove. Trials were secret, evidence flimsy, and confessions extracted under torture. The methods were terrifying. The rack stretched bodies until joints dislocated. The strappado hoisted prisoners by their arms, dislocating shoulders. Iron boots crushed feet, while water torture simulated drowning. These horrors were justified as saving souls, but in truth, they were tools of control. The Inquisition's darkest secret was its efficiency. It did not need to kill everyone. It only needed to kill enough to terrify the rest. Fear spread faster than fire. Families turned on each other. Neighbors betrayed neighbors, and silence became survival. The accused were often paraded through towns, forced to wear humiliating garments before being burned at the stake. The spectacle was meant to remind everyone, obedience was safety, dissent was death. And yet, the Inquisition was not only about punishment, it was about information. Records were meticulously kept, confessions cataloged, networks of informants maintained. It was an early form of surveillance centuries before modern states. The Inquisition revealed a chilling truth. Control of belief is more powerful than control of armies. By making people fear not only for their lives, but for their souls, the Church ensured obedience.
Knowledge was dangerous in the Middle Ages. To question too much, to know too much, was to risk being branded a heretic or a witch. Women who healed with herbs, midwives who delivered babies, or widows who lived alone were often accused of witchcraft. A failed harvest, a sudden illness, or a storm could all be blamed on them. Thousands were executed, burned at the stake, drowned in rivers, or hanged, victims of fear and superstition. But it wasn't only women. Scholars who studied the stars, experimented with chemicals, or dissected bodies in search of medical knowledge risked persecution. Alchemists sought the philosopher's stone, a mythical substance that could turn lead into gold and grant eternal life. To the Church, such pursuits bordered on heresy. The line between science and sorcery was thin. Astrology was studied alongside astronomy, chemistry alongside alchemy. What we now see as the beginnings of modern science was, in its time, considered dangerous, even demonic. The darkest secret of this era was how fear stifled progress. Ideas that could have advanced medicine or technology were suppressed. Curiosity was punished. The pursuit of knowledge was forced underground, hidden in secret manuscripts and whispered in coded language. Yet, despite the danger, knowledge survived. In hidden rooms, scholars copied texts, experimented in secret, and passed on their discoveries. The Renaissance would later rise from these embers. But in the Middle Ages, to seek truth was to risk death.
The Crusades are often remembered as holy wars, noble quests to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control. But beneath the banner of faith lay greed, ambition, and hidden agendas. When Pope Urban II called the First Crusade in 1095, he promised salvation to those who took up the cross. For peasants, it was a chance to escape poverty and sin. For knights, it was an opportunity for land, wealth, and glory. For the Church, it was a way to extend its influence eastward and unite a divided Europe under one cause. The journey itself was brutal. Thousands died of hunger, disease, and exhaustion before even reaching the battlefield. Yet those who survived unleashed unimaginable violence. In Jerusalem, Crusaders slaughtered Muslims, Jews, and even Eastern Christians indiscriminately. Chroniclers wrote of streets running with blood. But the Crusades were not only about religion, they were also about power. Italian merchants from Venice and Genoa profited enormously, controlling trade routes and enriching their cities. Kings used the wars to consolidate authority, while nobles carved out new kingdoms in the East. The darkest secret of the Crusades was that they often turned against fellow Christians. In 1204, the Fourth Crusade, instead of reaching Jerusalem, sacked Constantinople,
the greatest Christian city in the East. Churches were looted, relics stolen, and the Byzantine Empire crippled. The Crusades left a legacy of mistrust between East and West, Christian and Muslim, that echoes even today. They were not simply wars of faith, but wars of greed, politics, and ambition, cloaked in the language of salvation. While kings plotted and knights fought, the vast majority of people in the Middle Ages lived lives of quiet hardship. For peasants, survival was the only goal. Most were bound to the land as serfs, working from dawn to dusk in fields they did not own. Their homes were simple huts of wood and thatch, often shared with animals for warmth. Meals were meager: bread, porridge, and the occasional scrap of meat. Hunger was constant, famine a recurring terror. Disease was ever-present. Without sanitation, even minor illnesses could be deadly. Infant mortality was high, and life expectancy was short. The Black Death only worsened these conditions, wiping out entire villages. Superstition filled the gaps where knowledge was absent. A bad harvest might be blamed on witches, a storm on divine punishment. Priests preached about demons and hellfire, reinforcing fear as a way to maintain control. For the common people, religion was both comfort and chain. Yet despite the hardship, peasants endured. They celebrated festivals, told stories, and clung to traditions. Music, dance, and folklore offered brief escapes from toil. Their resilience was their greatest secret, the ability to survive in a world that offered little mercy. The lives of common people rarely appear in chronicles, but without their labor, castles would not stand, armies would not march, and kingdoms would not endure. Their story is one of silent endurance, the backbone of the Middle Ages.
The Middle Ages gave rise to secretive orders whose influence stretched across continents. Among them, none were more famous or infamous than the Knights Templar. Founded to protect pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land, the Templars quickly grew into a powerful military and financial force. They established fortresses, fought in battles, and created an early form of banking, allowing pilgrims to deposit money in Europe and withdraw it in Jerusalem. Their wealth and secrecy fueled rumors of hidden treasures, sacred relics, and forbidden rituals. The Hospitallers, originally a charitable order caring for the sick, also became a formidable military power. The Teutonic Knights carved out territories in Eastern Europe, spreading Christianity by the sword. Each order combined faith with force, cloaking ambition in vows of piety. But power breeds suspicion. By the 14th century, the Templars had become so wealthy and independent that they threatened kings. In 1307, King Philip IV of France, deeply in debt to the Templars, ordered their arrest. Under torture, many confessed to heresy, blasphemy, and secret rites, confessions extracted through pain, not truth. The order was dissolved, its leaders burned at the stake. Yet the legend of the Templars lived on. Whispers of hidden treasure, secret knowledge, and underground survival persisted for centuries. Conspiracy theories linked them to the Holy Grail, to Freemasonry, even to modern secret societies. The darkest secret of these orders was not only their hidden wealth or rituals, but how they blurred the line between faith and power. They were warriors of God, but also bankers, rulers, and conspirators. Their legacy is a reminder that in the Middle Ages, nothing was ever as simple as it seemed.
Behind the glittering crowns and jeweled thrones of the Middle Ages lay a world of shadows. Royal courts were not only centers of power, but nests of intrigue, where betrayal was as common as feasting and loyalty was a currency easily spent. Kings and queens projected images of divine authority, claiming their right to rule came from God himself. But in reality, their reigns were often precarious, balanced on fragile alliances and family rivalries. Brothers murdered brothers for thrones, sons rebelled against fathers, queens plotted in secret, wielding influence through whispers and poison. Consider the Plantagenet dynasty of England. Henry II's sons, Richard the Lionheart and John, turned against their father, plunging the kingdom into chaos. In France, the Capetian kings faced endless conspiracies from nobles who smiled in public but schemed in private. Across Europe, royal marriages were less about love and more about political chess, forging alliances that could just as easily unravel into war. Poison was a favored weapon. It was discreet, difficult to trace, and could strike in the heart of a feast. Chronicles tell of goblets laced with deadly powders, of meals that became death sentences. Assassins lurked in corridors, blades hidden beneath cloaks. Even the most powerful monarch could never truly feel safe. The darkest secret of royalty was that beneath the grandeur lay constant fear. Thrones were not secure seats of power, but precarious perches where one wrong step could mean ruin. The very families that ruled Europe were often their own worst enemies, tearing themselves apart in pursuit of crowns. And yet, these intrigues shaped history. Wars of succession, betrayals, and assassinations redrew maps and toppled dynasties. The Middle Ages remind us that behind every glittering crown was a shadow, and behind every royal smile, a dagger.
The Middle Ages did not end with a single event, but with a slow dawn. Out of centuries of darkness, a new light began to rise, the Renaissance. The seeds of change were planted in the very shadows of the medieval world. The Black Death, though catastrophic, weakened the old feudal order, giving peasants new bargaining power. The Crusades, though bloody, opened Europe to new ideas, goods, and knowledge from the East. Even the secret scholars who risked their lives to study forbidden texts kept alive the spark of curiosity. By the 15th century, that spark ignited. The invention of the printing press shattered the church's monopoly on knowledge. Books, once chained in monasteries, now spread across Europe. Ideas traveled faster than armies. Science began to challenge superstition. Astronomy, medicine, and philosophy flourished. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo celebrated human potential, painting not only saints and kings, but the beauty of the human form itself. Scholars rediscovered the works of Greece and Rome, blending ancient wisdom with new discoveries. The Renaissance was not a rejection of the Middle Ages, but its transformation, the phoenix rising from the ashes of centuries of fear. Yet the darkest secrets of the Middle Ages did not vanish. The Inquisition continued, witch hunts raged, and monarchs still schemed. But the balance was shifting. The world was no longer content to live in shadow. The lesson of the Middle Ages is clear. Even in the darkest times, light waits to return. The secrets of that era, of fear, corruption, and survival, remind us how fragile civilization can be and how resilient humanity truly is. The Middle Ages ended, but their shadows linger, and in those shadows we find not only warnings, but the roots of the modern world. Thank you for joining us on this adventure. If you enjoyed this exploration of the darkest secrets of the Middle Ages, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your journey is just beginning, and we can't wait to see where it takes you next.